Hello and welcome to Sim Strategy Gaming. I'm Sim. This first episode will be about the first scenario of Empire Railway 2, the Indianapolis race. Empire Railway 2 have just received a new super cool update, lots of nice graphics, and I'm wondering if the industrial production has become more lucrative. I will look further into that and would appreciate some comments from others that might have figured this out. It is now also much easier to pay attention to how your balance per week is changing. In Empire Railway 2, it's important to strike a balance between making money and achieving mission objectives. Two gameplay factors that sometimes contradict each other, like here on this map, where we have a lot of nice opportunities for making money early in the game up here to the east, while pretty much all of our mission objectives will be around here down south as we are going to reach southwards in this race. Might be a little hard to make money with our competitor in the middle here, making for us to build in this L-shaped manner and then being unable to connect our cities here and then lose out on passenger traffic might make for a little slower start, but still there are so many cities to connect here that we will be making good money later on. It might seem hard to complete this circular economic approach that we have used and are going to use. Not all the time. We were going to build a circle here, and then we are going to be hard, at least in the beginning, to connect Grand Rapids and London to a circle, but then we can build some line in between here and then make for new circles as the map sort of broadens out and has cities sort of on both sides, like here, both sides of this lake, while here there will only be a line as there are no cities. We are allowed to connect to since these cities down here belong to our competitors region. Looking at tech, we see now we have reached the 1880s, sort of late in the game, starting out with this absolutely excellent PRRD12, which will suit fine for both passengers and freight and pretty much all the needs that we have. Could have used this, but later on, when we are able to afford to build the dedicated express lines, we will go for these better express trains. This one, this very fast one, particularly good for achieving express bonuses. Might skip on this because this one, slower but very strong, powerful express train that can also be used for mixed lines. Might use this for the express lines, this for the express lines, and this for the mixed lines actually later on, as this is almost as strong as the mixed train here. It's also good to notice this freight trains. This is the best freight train we have access to, but also might think we have access to this consolidation early locomotive, but very cheap, very low maintenance requirements, high reliability, and more than fast and strong enough for little lines where there aren't that much traffic. So then, finally, 2 years later, we have been able to achieve our mission objectives and also build around the zones that we are allowed to do. It took some sweet time to transport these 250 passengers from Chicago to Louisville because it had to be absolutely direct. I thought for a while there that I could just make a little line here going to Hilton and make for a hotel there, and then they would take the train up to Chicago. This didn't work. None of the passengers counted for the mission objective. So then I completed a second line now. You see that this is the first line that we had, this Indianapolis, St. Louis, Rock Island, Chicago line. And then there's another line going now outside of it here. And then down to Louisville and up again. And that made for a complete mission. So then it took some time, but in the meantime, there were ample opportunities to build a long line here now from Madison over the top, connecting to this already existing circles through Chicago, Grand Rapids, and then further on to London, Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, and then New York City down here. And that will make for us to complete our mission optional task, optional mission objective, to achieve an express status on this line. Sometimes it's not so easy to achieve this express status, so then a trick might be to just notice the cities that are actually in question here. It would be Chicago, Buffalo, New York City, and then just take New York, Buffalo, and then just do it like this, so that it sort of just goes into these cities, and then put the fastest train available to us on it. And then as it rides, make sure that none of the other trains are standing in the way. So as it rolls on now, and then a slower train is present, one can just stop the game for a little while and then go about and delete this train that is blocking the path. And then just put up a new one, and the new one will redeploy from somewhere else. This is going to lose us a little bit of money, but still we will be able to achieve the express bonus with certainty, which is good. We don't need to have the express bonus throughout the game. We just need to achieve it once, and then the mission objective is clear for us. Other mission objectives that we had to look into: the corn from Chicago to Chicago. Already had some corn here, but then there are so many cities in between here that they sort of eat up all the corn. So to take advantage of the corn up here, bring it down to Grand Rapids, and then just one city down to Chicago here might be faster. Sometimes you have the opportunity to sort of push the mission objective and to make sure that, okay, you can bring this corn, we can direct line straight up to Chicago, and just make sure that you're achieving this mission objective as fast as possible. But you wouldn't make much money on this. To rather sort of try to achieve the mission objectives while also building something lucrative would make it much easier to achieve mission objectives later on. Particularly, say, with the one that we now are going south, and we are going to build an express line between Indianapolis and Knoxville. And then with Knoxville, there is a little mountain here. And certainly we wouldn't be able to achieve any express status if you now went around the mountains in here. And we are not allowed to build there even. So we need to build a tunnel. And tunnels are kind of tricky to build. Because so it would be a good idea, I think, to save and load a bit, and because if you are building it wrong and then are deleting it, you won't get your money back. So you might lose a fortune on it. But if you then save and load and do it over and make sure that you're getting it right, getting all the tracks in line, that would be good. But it will still cost a lot of money. So then to have money rolling in from some other project like this circle here, going around and around and around and around, making money, never to be disturbed, at least not for a long time, and then making us money, so then we can achieve our main mission objectives down south with ease. This long line, Madison, Grand Rapids, London, Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, New York, that was sort of built mostly to connect these two. This circle here and this circle here. Wouldn't be any plausible way of building a circle in our competitor's zone here. It wouldn't be that nice. We had to build it because of that, and we had to build it because of the express bonus. But I also added upon, so now it's a 4-lane track. It also brings goods back and forth. But the line is a little too long, and it picks up, say, fruit from 2 different places. And now fruit is coming back and forth in sort of a weird manner here, where this fruit goes to the other warehouse and back, and so. And what I'm going to do later, as I have a little bit more money and a little bit been thinking a little bit more, is to split this and to have it into 3 separate stations, and then I can make sure that different goods are bouncing only onto the different lines. One option here will of course be to just skip on this fruit in this warehouse, and then it wouldn't be a problem at all. But then the fruit here wouldn't be able to reach down there, and I want that northern fruit to go down to this southern circle here, and I want this fruit north of Grand Rapids to sort of serve the line here. And then it will be easier perhaps to achieve this by having more warehouses, but then of course more warehouses cost more money. Now, only 3 months later, in April '82, I haven't really progressed so much, but there is one thing that I wanted to comment in particular. I had the opportunity here with St. Louis, Memphis, Nashville, perhaps even Knoxville, not quite sure, to build some sort of circle here. But with the mountains and this disallowed region here, and also the sugar in the middle. Sort of, if you build these circles, then often will leave something in the middle, and what to do about that. And then I made for a different solution, one perhaps important. I made for a cross. And then if you make a cross, then you wouldn't really connect all cities. You would make a cross here from St. Louis down to Nashville, and then from Louisville to Memphis, and how to sort of make them in the middle. There are ways to do this other than this, but if one have a station in between and build a hotel there, one can see that this hotel is receiving quite a lot of passengers and other express goods, and it can also have a warehouse to distribute. You have to watch for this. This is very, very important to look at. There's something wrong with the beer delivery here. Is it going back and forth in some weird manner? Perhaps you should just delete on that. But anyways, the point is here that now St. Louis and this long line all the way up to Madison, Rock Island down here is connected to Memphis. It goes like this. But it also goes through this Parker, which connects it to this extra line, this Louisville, Nashville line. So now all of these cities are actually connected through 2 lines in a cross, not a circle. This path here, we don't really have the money for it now because I'm going to build something else, but we could complete circle here and then make for a new hotel here in Pasteur. And then this circle can be connected to this sort of line going up here to make for an integrated, systematic approach that doesn't necessarily always include circles. Circles might seem hard, but if one starts out with the circles, it's so much easier to build upon crazier stuff later. Dedicated special lines, industrial features, but also to have in mind that of course lines are good. One need a line here from Louisville to Knoxville to Indianapolis. Stopping here, this is a line that sort of adds upon a circle, but because of the mountains and such, it's not so easy to build anything else. But now to have circles and line, and also the opportunity to sometimes build these crosses, particularly on the Balkan map, the 15th scenario, which I'm going to show sometime later. I hope get the time for it. It's very clever to build this, to have these crossing lines and then connect them through a hotel. And now, 3 years of gameplay. It took some time, some of these objectives, so we're a little lagging behind there on time. We just barely made some of this. Kind of a rush here. But one learn as time goes by. Anyway, we have been able to reach Atlanta and starting and grown it to be able to receive a second industry. I could have demolished, bought up for quite a bit of a sum and demolished this textile factory, and then make room for the clothing factory, and then perhaps built a textile factory down here, and then made for a faster completion of the mission. But I sort of got a little lost in the building of more economic zones, making more and more and more money, which now has resulted in an enormous growth. We are making so much money now that it's just fantasy that sort of holds us back from what we're going to be able to complete. And be able to borrow more money as well. But very soon we are going to be able to complete our mission, produce all this clothing. There's a lot of demand for it around. We'll have an extra warehouse here to be able to bring it on to Nashville. Not so much demand for it down south because the cities are still too small. But up north, there are demand both in Knoxville and Nashville, and we will be able to achieve this mission objective in pretty much no time. In the meantime, I built for a lot of nice little extra lines to make sure that Atlanta was going to achieve, get its wheat from all over up here. I built for this extra line from Memphis, going over here, making a little bridge. Now that we got money for it, bridges are no problem at all. On the Scandinavian map, it's been pointed out that if you just make enough money, the oceans there, the lakes there and such, it's no problem at all. One can build as many economic zones around these mountains are a bit, but the bridges, no problem if you just make enough money. One can see now that when one has circles, completed this circle here, all cities that sort of are a member of at least 2 circles usually have explosive growth. I don't really pay too much attention to which city is getting what goods or so. Just have a general overlook. I don't know calculations whatsoever to a little bit perhaps, but to see how these goods are flowing back and forth, and just see that it's more or less making up. As soon as they get into this circular things and being members of several circles, there will be so many trains coming in, and usually the problem is not that it's not enough goods. The problem would very soon become that it's not enough trains. So just make sure that there are enough trains on the lines all the time. We can see that London is growing a bit slow. London has been connected for a long time, longer than many of these other cities and such, but as it's not really a member of a circle, it's perhaps a little bit slow, not that slow, but it's connected now to this Toronto-Ottawa zone by the express doubling with a mixed line down here, and also an extra mixed line coming up here to ensure that it's well connected to Toronto and further on to Ottawa, but also to receive more and more goods. You can have a quick look and see what it's receiving, and particularly what it's not receiving. Not receiving corn, milk, fruit, vegetables, lots of stuff that it ain't receiving. 64% the fulfillment of demand. Not really that good. Let's look at Syracuse. Much, much better, because it's just connected more. It's connected to this zone, and then further on down this huge, nice zone here. This is actually a double one. You have 2 zones, both one going around all the way, really long one, and then a smaller one in between, Philadelphia, Washington, up here, Syracuse, Buffalo, and downwards again. So just keep connecting, and then later on, as we have even more money, we can start crisscrossing, and then you'll be thankful that you started out with circles, because it's much easier than to build something else. Say with this. There just suddenly popped up a ceramics factory down here because there is some clay down Edison. But and then the clay was sort of coming in. Okay, I managed to get clay up here, and then enough traffic back and forth here to bring the clay down here. But coal, I just had to build an extra line all the way. Really unprofitable little thing going on all the way up here. and then to be able to cross here, it's not so easy. And if I already started crisscrossing, then it would be particularly difficult to further on crisscross when you particularly need it. I thought I was going to go into a little bit of tips and tricks. Sometimes you might get a breakdown, not perhaps on this train, but say if there are some trains with low maintenance. I like to keep my train maintained, but sometimes, say on this long line, if I were to add an extra stop here, if I were to now say if I wanted to make this line a little bit longer and I wanted to take it down here to Chicago, and then if I do that, then the trains will sort of need to update, and they might sort of not stop at the first stop. They have to go all the way to the stop that they were at, and then in that process they might have maintenance problems. And then a trick here is to see, now this train has little maintenance and I don't really want to change it, but I change it for just a moment, and then I go back again, and now it has full maintenance. So if it has a serious breakdown, one can do this back and forth, costs a little bit of money, and then all the trains on that line are entirely fixed and just have a small breakdown. The small breakdowns are avoidable, so you can they just happen. There's a natural part there. You create a bit of a mess, which is a cool mess. It makes for this, that you have to pay attention not to have too many trains, and that there can be these choke points and such. But one can fix this, but it's no real problem when it's just a little breakdown. If it had been a big breakdown, it would have been a big problem. But then if it had been a big breakdown, I would just change the trains back and forth like this, serious breakdown, and then it would have been full, and then the serious breakdown turns into a small breakdown, and then it start moving again pretty fast later on. One must take care that it's not too much traffic on these lines. And one can see now, as the city grows, it sort of becomes impossible to keep these red trains from not showing up. There becomes so much traffic when there's both freight and passengers, and more freight and more passengers and express goods coming in from all sort of places, coming all the way from down south there, want to go further on, want to pass through. And then even as one builds for extra lines and extra circles inside, there will still be too much. So then one has to sort of go into these particular lines and see how is their utilization. 70.2%, that is a lot. So one might be tempted to put up a few extra trains, but then looking at the waiting time is already at 2%. So if you put on, one extra train might be okay, but that might increase the waiting time to more than double, might easily be 5% now because of just one extra train. But it's important to understand that these colors here on the trains, they are linked to the utilization. The more full the trains are, the more higher the utilization, and the more they turn red. And if they are red, you should perhaps build more lines. But if they are green perhaps might, like say with these freight lines and such, dedicated particular freight lines, there's no mess about it. It always brings down whatever it's supposed to bring, never being full, never being lagging behind. But they are unprofitable. They make little money when they are green. Now this is going to make more money, but still, green trains, little money. Red train, too full, and yellow train might be pretty perfect, or at least you can leave that be for the time being. And so then, after 4 years of gameplay, we have finally been able to achieve all our objectives. Just barely made Chief Executive this time. And the reason for this was that we were lagging behind, particularly in the beginning. with this mission to bring passengers from Louisville to Chicago. Didn't really understand that it had to be a completely direct line. It didn't say so in the mission objectives. Just said to transport 250 passengers, and I thought that it might be an indirect line going to a hotel, but that didn't work. One must point out that particularly that one need to be a direct line between Louisville and Chicago for it to count. Then down here, when we're going to transport 750 passengers from Jacksonville to Atlanta, it took absolutely forever. And I think that it might have to do with that this to Atlanta now, it goes through Augusta. At least I built a lot of lines to try to make for maximum traffic, but I think at least some of the lines might go through Augusta, and this might not count as they reach Atlanta. Not quite sure about this. We were able to achieve everything, and I had lots of time to build much stuff, buy up all kind of industry, and see how this went out. We could have built here as well. I didn't really realize that these were becoming available to us. But built all this fantastic extra features. Built this little line here that connects to this other line, also in a hotel system here. It brings in milk to Albany, to our dairy there. And built down here, and also extra passengers that go back and forth between Albany and New York, and also connects to this line. This is the most important stuff there to try. We improved the flow of goods. We can have a look at the fruit now here in Grand Rapids, now split into 2 stations, so that fruit is now being more orderly now, a little bit at least. Has to be careful about this, and that the fruit up here north of Madison goes down south, while the fruit north of Grand Rapids moves along the line here. It's important to have a look at all of these things. Was able to complete this circle around Madison, Chicago, Grand Rapids. It might seem implausible to build this, but then it's not more expensive to build this circle and this bridge over here than it is to buy one of these industries and such. So then, and we had time to buy a lot of industries. Yeah, all of this is now ours. Much cheaper to buy up new industries than to take down old ones, but still. I can point out things like that when all these lines are red and such, we don't have enough capacity to transport everything that we need. So, and it's particularly important with these basic goods like the grain production. We demand per week 135. That's a lot of trains. And so keep these lines short. At this point, there is no point in trying to bring lots and lots of goods on this mixed main lines here. They just wouldn't be able to take it. So even though it is connected, unless it is very short path, it wouldn't be able to reach it. Well, then I guess that pretty much sums it up. So no one can feel free to like and subscribe and leave some comments if there is something that is not entirely clear. And then goodbye, and then hope to see you around next time.